Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. As I was just looking in the chat, it's always encouraging to see the truly global nature of this community. We have people in Netherlands, Canada, Kenya, South Africa. So it's really good to see how Evolve for Earth, is truly a global community. On behalf of Evolve for Earth Community of Practice, I welcome you to today's roundtable discussion titled Doing More with Less While Not Losing Trust. How should evaluation standards evolve in an AI augmented world? Today's discussion forms part of the ongoing Global Evaluation Week 2026, convened under the theme Evaluation, Evidence, and Trust in the Age of AI. This year's discussions comes at a time when evaluation systems are operating in an increasingly complex environment, shaped by uncertainty, resource constraints, rapid technological change, and the growing questions around trust, credibility, and evidence use. Across the week, the evaluation community is reflecting on how artificial intelligence is influencing evaluation practice while also considering how the evaluation profession can continue to uphold rigor, ethics, independence, and trust in AI augmented world. As part of this broader reflection, Evolve for Earth is convening 6 sessions this week, and these are being done in English, French, and Spanish, bringing together evaluators, practitioners, researchers, and development partners from the different parts of the globe. Today's event is a special session jointly led by the agencies supporting Evolve for Earth, reflecting continued inter-agency collaboration around evaluation, learning, and practice. For those joining us for the first time and might be wondering, what is Evolve for Earth? Evolve for Earth is a global community of practice focused on evaluation in food security, environment, agriculture, and rural development. The platform brings together evaluators, monitoring and evaluation specialists, practitioners, and institutions to support shared learning and strengthen evaluation capacity and promote evidence-informed decision making. Evolve for Earth's main and sponsoring partners are the evaluation offices of FAO, WFP, CGAR, the JEF, with the support of the evaluation offices of IFAD and the New Development Bank. Uh, for those who may not know me, my name is Innocent Chamisa. I currently serve as the coordinator of Evolve for Earth. Before we begin, here are some few housekeeping reminders. I'm sure we are all now accustomed and used to Zoom, but please note this session is being recorded and it will be shared on the Evolve for Earth website and on our YouTube channel. Please do subscribe if you are not yet following us on those sites. Please keep your microphones muted. I can hear someone his or her microphone on right now. So please, when we are not invited to speak, keep that microphone muted. If you'd like to contribute during the discussion, kindly use the raise hand function. We will be watching that and we will give you a platform to speak. You may also post your questions or comments in the chat throughout the session. We have a time for discussion toward the end of this session. We encourage, as usual, respectful and inclusive engagement and language throughout the session. It is now my pleasure to introduce the main moderator for today's session, Anup Sharma. Anup is an evaluation and AI specialist at IFAD's Independent Office of Evaluation. Anup has more than 7 years of experience across the UN system in evaluation, operational assessments, AI integration, and data analysis. At IFAD, Anup is leading efforts to integrate AI strategy and innovation into evaluation processes and practices. Anup, thank you for joining us today. Over to you. And just a reminder, Anup, we have 90 minutes for today's session. Over to you, Anup. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Innocent. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to all panelists and participants for joining us. Today's roundtable titled "Doing More with Less While Not Losing Trust and how evaluation should integrate the standards in terms of AI is evolving very fast. So this is very timely session, which we are going to discuss today because the AI is literally everywhere. And as you know, in the UN agencies and multilateral banks, the funding is shrinking. So the pressure is on the evaluation offices that how do we deliver? And AI is here to rescue, but obviously you taking help of AI without considering the rigor, trust, and the validation mechanism, it would be a mistake. That's why we have the timely panel here, and I'm happy to introduce this panel. So just for the housekeeping rule for everyone, that you will have opportunity to ask question, and end of the session we have 20 minutes just for the Q&As. But before that, there are three themes that we are dividing this discussion into. So first theme is the practice and methodology, where AI adds value, what are the tools being used, and how quality is maintained. The second one is a skills and team composition. So how with the AI, how the competencies of the evaluators are evolving, and how the team compositions are evolving. And the third theme here is the governance, ethics, and the trust. So basically, what safeguards, standards, accountability mechanism are needed. So the format is roundtable conversational. So for each theme, I would ask a question to the lead speaker, and then this will follow with inviting few reactions from the follow panelists. So for the theme practice and methodology, I would like to invite Tanisha. Let's start with it. I was wondering, Tanisha, if I could ask you, where can AI help evaluation teams to do more with less without weakening the quality, rigor, and trust? If you could
Thank you.
yes.
Of course. Thank you for your question, Anu. I mean, I genuinely believe, and I've seen that AI can help us do a lot more. However, with less, I think that is debatable. For example, AI can help us do scale repetitive tasks. For in our organization, where we do programmatic review or evaluation of programs, there can be hundreds to thousands of projects and thousands of documents that we have to go through. For example, in my experience, I've used AI to screen portfolio of almost 3,000 projects to determine which project has the objective of enhancing policy coherence and whether it has been achieved in almost 3,000 projects. And for that task, I mean, it would take a lot of resources for a human to go through each project objective and determine that. However, like AI is like a hardworking person, but it needs clear-cut instructions for it to be able to perform the task, right? So I would compare using AI or how to prompt design as something like writing a recipe. The steps must be clear and it must be easy to follow. And so before deploying any algorithm, for example, to identify whether a project can enhance policy coherence, we ask reviewers to classify to try the same task for a subset of projects, like maybe 50 projects. And then we iteratively refine the prompts to make sure that the AI results closely match of the human reviewers. That would also let us to refine our logic so that our logic of how defining policy coherence is clear-cut and unambiguous. Then once we do that, we deploy the algorithm. but we continue to involve human reviewers at the end, right? So we let the human reviewer re-review a new subsample of projects, and that would allow us to assess the AI's performance, develop a confusion matrix, estimate the confidence intervals. And throughout those tasks, then we can transparently report the reliability of our findings. Yeah. Back to you, Anup.
Thank you, Danisha. You talked well about the evidence synthesis from the large documents, and you talked about the validation safeguard. So turning to you, Anupam, I was wondering which AI tools and approaches are proving most useful in practice, and what lessons are emerging so far from their use? If you could put some light into that, that would be great.
Thank you, Anup. That's a great question. And I'll just build on what Tanisha just said. So the most useful thing for us hasn't been the chatbot interface at all. So no Gemini or ChatGPT. It's using these models behind the chatbots. So the APIs for systematic analysis. Like going through multiple documents in batches, looping through them, uh, and using those models for classification and coding scheme that is predetermined by evaluators' expertise has been the most helpful and a force multiplier in our evaluation. And it's just amplified the manual coding that we relied upon earlier. So that's one. The second AI approach or AI tool I would like to share here is the retrieval augmented generation, so the RAG. So RAG essentially is a document intelligence system. That means you can upload multiple documents, and there are ways to make sure that AI is retrieving information from those specific documents and not hallucinating. So we use it for multiple purposes. So if you need quick summaries from your thousands of evaluation documents, also for sanity checking, because this has become more and more important because we work as a team, we work with consultants, and sometimes or most of the time we have to validate information from there because we don't know whether what we are receiving these days uh, is an artifact of AI, if it's a ghost AI. So it helps us with that aspect as well. And it can be traced to the source. So that's the power. So it's a very quick and easy way to validate, but also for us, if you need a quick and I would say dirty kind of summary, it will help you, but it's not a substitute for a systematic analysis where you go through each document and synthesize based on a already agreed coding or classification scheme. And finally, I just wanted to take a step back and reflect. So the broader lesson for us have been that the value really lives in the pipeline and orchestration and not a single model, because every day you'll have a new model and every model has some advantage and some things that it might miss. So the value is in the chain of the steps and how clearly you define the task and taxonomy upfront. And this is where AI is not going to replace the evaluators. It is only going to amplify the goodness of the evaluators and also the biases of the evaluators because AI is a force multiplier. And also because a lot of these AI models are not fully deterministic, and the response would change as the models change and how you use the models change. So we have also learned how to increase the reproductivity or reproducibility of those models by using some good practices in archiving the models used, the prompts used, the classification scheme used, so that it can be reproduced and it's transparent for everyone. So I'll just stop here.
Thank you. Thank you, Anupam. No, I mean, you talked about, Tanisha talked about the added value and you talked about the tools. I would like to bring in here Stephen and Jiki for quick reflections on. I know that in EFOD and FAO, you guys use a lot of AI tools and you have been doing a lot of work. I was wondering from your experience, from EFOD's experience and FAO's experience, how are you validating these AI-assisted outputs in practice? Maybe Stephen can go and then we can have reflections from Ziki.
Okay, thanks a lot, Anoop. At EFOD, like also, I guess, as our colleagues from Jeff were explaining, we do not treat AI outputs as findings. So we need to we treat them more as analytical inputs that need to be checked by evaluators. And how do we do that? It's similar to what Anupam was saying. So first of all, we need to ensure traceability to source evidence. So that might include or must include actually references, transcript links, speaker type, quotes, timestamps where relevant. So evaluators can go back to the original material. Second, we also use human quality assurance. So we conduct spot checks, compare AI outputs with original transcripts, look for inconsistencies, and correct or reject outputs where needed. We also validate differently depending on the task. So if it's more classification tasks, then we look at performance metrics such as F1 scores. If it's more related to retrieval or generation, then we assess whether outputs are relevant, accurate, coherent, complete, and faithful to the source evidence. We also do is to triangulate the AI outputs with other evidence, so looking at what came out of interviews or other document reviews, etc. And finally, we also, as Anupam was also saying, we keep an audit trail, so we document prompts, workflow scripts, outputs, corrections, etc. So AI helps us to process more evidence faster, but validation and interpretation and final judgment remains with the evaluator.
Thank you, Stephen. In Ziki, what's your experience in FAO regarding the validation? We would love to hear about that as well.
Thank you, Anoop. Thank you, Stephen. I echo a lot with what has previously been said, like what Tanecha and Anupam mentioned. So I would summarize it in 3 layers. So the first layer is before you start the analysis. So at that time, you would need a clear conceptual framework. So you already know that how you want to set up the analysis steps, which part is gonna delegate to AI and which part is human in the loop. And also you want to have a baseline for the analysis results. For example, like a sample set that is analyzed by human. So then in the middle of the analysis, that is the second layer. So you can already embed some QA indicators. For example, you can ask AI to flag that the items that they're not sure about. And of course, you need to give clear definition of what is ambiguous case, what is the case to flag about. And then after the analysis, it is naturally that we want to spot check the results. And also through statistical sampling techniques, we can do a very good sampling, random sampling to make sure that we get the sample sets they want to test and then calculate error rate based on a certain confidence level. So I think with this structured 3 layers, we can ensure that the result is validated. Thank you.
Thank you, Jiki. This is really good framework that you provided. Other panelists, do you have any? We have some time for reflection, take more reflections. But if you want to come in for a quick comment, that would be great. Any one of you?
Yes, I would also add that a lot of my tasks involve using AI for classification. And in that case, to make sure that no hallucination is occurring. And, because AI also tends to have very nice sounding justifications, I don't let the AI generate free form text. What I do is for each classification, use the reasoning that is only from the original text and do not generate their own text. And I think and at the same time, you can check whether the text snippet actually comes from the original document using regex, not AI, to make sure that it's solid. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Tanisha. What I'm hearing is that AI can offer real methodological efficiencies, especially when we have like large evidence base or like large knowledge base. But these efficiency only matter if we have validation and quality assurance frameworks in place, as Tanisha, as Stephen and Ziki was saying. This leads to the second theme. If AI changes how evidence is processed and analyzed, what skills do evaluators need, and how the teams evolve? Right. So let me move to my co-panelist, Stephen. Let me start with you. So, what do you think? What competencies do evaluators needs to have to use AI responsibly?
Thanks a lot, Anup. So in terms of skills, well, I think first of all, evaluators need AI literacy. So understanding what AI can do and cannot do, including the risks of hallucination, bias, missing context, overgeneralization. Secondly, also they need prompt and workflow design skills. So seeing how evaluation questions can be turned into clear AI-assisted tasks with structured outputs and documented steps. They also need validation skills. So checking how AI outputs against the original evidence, including quotes, timestamps, documents, and stakeholder perspectives, etc. Also very important are triangulation skills. So comparing AI outputs with other evidence streams before drawing conclusions. Also, there is a need for ethical and data governance awareness. So in terms of confidentiality, anonymization, consent, secure processing, bias mitigation, and accountability. And also very important is to understand that AI outputs are not conclusions, so human judgment remains central. At IFAT, in the panel of evaluation, what we're doing in that sense is capacity building is a core objective of our AI strategy of the office. We do that through, for example, using hands-on pilots. So evaluators can really learn by applying AI to real evaluation tasks, and not only through theory. We also organize office-wide trainings, for example, on prompt engineering, data analysis, AI use cases. We also promote knowledge sharing and peer learning. So also with other offices, we had also, for example, peer learning session with our colleagues from Jeff, but also with other institutions. But also internally, we've set up a community of practice really to share experiences and tips, etc., amongst colleagues. And we also provide technical support from AI specialists, data science, who help with, for example, scripts, prompts, workflows, and quality assurance. So the idea is that evaluators can use AI critically, responsibly, and also confidently.
Thank you, Stephen. Very interesting. I want to bring you here. From GCF's perspective, how should evaluation teams evolve to sort of combine AI capabilities with the human expertise? So, what basically do you think the future evaluation teams will need to have a dedicated technical specialist, or all evaluators should develop basic AI skills?
Okay, thank you, Anup, for that question. So let me share a little bit of experience from the GCF Independent Evaluation Unit. We actually have gone through this process of establishing the science and data team within the independent evaluation unit. We actually used to call this team as a data lab, where most of the data colleagues were kind of punching in the data, right? So manually coding the data. But over the past years, we have kind of revolutionized our team structure, science and data team. So we have actually AI experts working within this data team. And so this has been a journey, because even within the evaluation unit, there has been certain, I wouldn't say resistance, but of course, we are all humans, right? So we tend to, stick to business as usual. And we have some kind of misunderstanding about how AI could be used. So as I've been the lead for the science and data team for the past 2 years, and it has been a journey. And this also coincides with, because GCF, we're independent evaluation unit, but we also have the secretariat, and the secretariat part is also going through that, evolution. How do we actually work, and effectively apply AI? So it's been a journey. And with that background, I want to share two quick takeaway from this 2 years of lesson. Number one is really I already kind of alluded to this, open to change. So that aspect is extremely, extremely important. And for us, we had to start from setting up the vision. So vision for the S&D science and data team, what we did is supporting evidence-based evaluation through the role of data and AI tools, and just keeping that vision. That was really important for me as the lead of the team. So that's what we did. And the second thing, we also had to embrace, it's not just us as a human who need to change, but we also need to be aware that AI is changing. I mean, if we talk about AI last year and now, it's completely drastically different, and we need to be aware of that. So it's not just us adapting, but we also need to be mindful. So let's just give it a concrete example. I mean, 2 years ago, we didn't, we were doing PowerPoint presentation for evaluation findings, manually. Now we don't do that. I mean, we pretty much rely on, of course, the ideas and concepts and logic all come from the evaluation. This is human, us, evaluator. But if you ask, the AI, could you create PowerPoint? And then they do that. And for us, then quality assure. So that kind of change have already happened in our unit. And so that's been a really, really big change. And then, of course, from that, my key takeaway is, it's really important to keep that growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. And this, I think this study from the American psychologist, Dr. Carol Dweck, I mean, we really talk about we need to be hardworking. And, if we think that we can change things the way we do with the new tools and new, technology, and that's how we adapt, and then also AI adapt. So I think it's very much a synergy between the humans and AI, and that's what's happening within the GCF independent unit. I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiko. You well said that the AI is changing. What was relevant last year may not be relevant this year, and that what's relevant this year may not be relevant next year, because it's changing with a very, very fast pace.
Yes.
But also, I mean, you also said that the skills are changing, and as well as the team composition, as Stephen said. So now I want to bring in Alexandra from the World Food Program and Carlos from FAO. In your experience, what skills are becoming more important as AI becomes part of the evaluation work? It's there to say all of us are using in a way or other. So what do you think, in your experience, that what kind of skills are becoming most important?
So I'm happy to tee off on this. And I think what I'm going to do is focus on the tools and competencies using Evidence Lab, which is our AI tool that we have now just officially launched as an example, because I think it speaks well to the idea of future-proofing tools and team skills. And so I'm going to start by just saying, you know, we've been on a many-year journey to develop this AI evidence mining tool in OEV in order to efficiently look across our corpus of evaluations to draw insights. None of us are AI experts or data scientists in OEV. So as a result, we've engaged in a very collaborative relationship with AI experts to develop something that I think is truly useful because it is user-centered. And so it started with a use case and then a scan of what was available. And again, you know, my colleagues have said all of this is changing very rapidly. And then a decision on the type of tool with an eye on, again, future-proofing, a pilot with many, many ups and downs, and finally a tool that is now being rolled out. And so we tested many models along the way. At one point, we actually had a vendor product with a full development team, but there was no one on that side that could translate what the business need was. And to understand, you know, in terms of what they were developing. And then finally, we were very fortunate to have an AI expert who we understood his logic and he understood our needs. And so we took a step towards each other. And what this really highlights is, again, beyond the actual like using the skills of using AI, it's the soft skills of communication in building user-centered tools that are useful for us in evaluations going forward. It took a great deal of time to arrive at this point, and I am still not an AI expert or a data scientist, and I never really will be. And in reality, it is that, you know, AI experts and data scientists may not sit in evaluation offices, and when they do, that's great. Or for that matter, they may not sit on evaluation teams. And so I think that we need to think about AI and evaluation and the skills that are needed, that we approach it as a skills ladder that is not role agnostic. So taking a step back just to think about, you know, management in our agencies, it's really the core competency of team enablement and process improvements so that use case identification where AI can help teams, change management, so getting teams to adopt AI workflows, performance measures, to track whether these tools and workflows are actually helpful, escalation awareness, and most importantly, it's embracing failure because we should not be afraid to fail because this is part of the process that will make us really succeed in the end in using these innovative tools. And so we need to be at ease with our discomfort and uncertainty. In terms of evaluation practitioners, I really think that, you know, CGIAR wrote a very useful guidance last year that kind of outlines those core components of building AI integration competencies into evaluations. And one of the first things they highlighted was this idea of building an AI muscle, which is, I think, what kind of Stephen alluded to and what he was talking to. And it was this constant practice and experimentation, which leads back to my point about not being afraid to fail as we learn going forward and building our strengths, and then also understanding what AI can do and not do across the evaluation cycle. And third, of course, is the prompting skills, which is something that we build as we work more in terms of developing, and something that now that we've launched our tool, are really starting to build out. And in fact, I'm very grateful to EFOD because I've learned so much in their journey that we're applying actually in our journey in terms of building capacity into how we're using our tools. But beyond better prompt engineering remains the awareness of risk and sensitivities, which will lead into, I think, our next discussion on governance and ethics. So I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Carlos, if we can have some experience from FAO, if you could share perspective from FAO, that would be great as well.
Yes. Should see, maybe this is for later. No, this is for another topic. Yes, thank you. Well, I mean, well, good afternoon, everyone. No, it has been very interesting to hear this conversation on the skills and team composition. Let me pick just one skill that I believe has always been very important for evaluators, but has become even more so when we have to speak internally with our teams, but also external with our clients about our use of AI. And this is the communication skills. Right. So my colleagues have been mentioning it already, ICO in GCF about behavior change. You also, Alexandra, you allude also as well about how important it is, that people communicate in a user-friendly manner, right? That you can understand. And I tend to fully agree with that, because as much as the technical skills are required, we as evaluators ultimately, if we want these new technologies and these new innovations to be used, we have to be able to explain them in a friendly manner and in a way that lay people will understand. So let me leave it there. Anup, communication skills, will help a lot. Behavior change will help a lot people understand what we're doing, and will also allow us to respond to some of the questions that people will be telling us, or at least in my experience, sometimes the reaction I have from senior managers or clients is that, AI, no, that's going to fake your results. They are going to have hallucinations. So as an evaluator, I don't need to be necessarily an AI expert, but I need to be at least aware of how AI works and be able to explain how that is going to strengthen the results of the exercise. So over to you, Anup, please.
Thank you, Carlos. I was wondering, this is like open reflection to any of you panelists. I was wondering, in future, will the future evaluation teams need fewer evaluators and more technical specialists, or simply different kind of evaluators with technical skills? So how would you think? Anyone can answer this. Please feel free to raise your hand. Yes, Aiko, I see you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna, for such interesting question. So I think this might lead to actually the next session, as Alexandra was saying about the ethics and governance. But as we use, because our team's been using AI for the past 2 years, right? And so we have now come to realization that the more we use, actually, the more ethic and governance and the evaluative judgment role becomes so important, because now AI we actually use AI for 3 things. And I think already, a lot of people mentioned, I know like Arya, Tanisha was mentioning, somebody working, as a hardworking person. That's basically some, AI using as assistant. But we also use AI for intelligence. We actually ask AI to quality assure our technical work. And that have worked really well as well. And then the third part that we use is we actually do the replacement. So we produce synthesis report. And if I understood, I think someone mentioned about producing, I think it was Stephen, mentioning about, reports. So we use in 3 ways, and we have tried all these methods. And as we use more and more AI in every evaluation work, we need the evaluator's judgment in the end to make a call. Is this the right judgment? And so I cannot stress enough that we evaluator needs to be there, really. But of course, we can take so much of time out for AI to do the work. And so we can do more of impossible that we couldn't do before. So it's like expanding the evaluator's possibility rather than, evaluator will be reduced. I don't think that is the model. It's more of a expanding our ability with the use of AI. So I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiko. No, this is super interesting to hear. I was wondering if any of other panelists wants to comment on that. Okay, I think the discussion shows that AI is not only the technical issues. Definitely, it's more it's also the professional capacity issue, and as you said, evaluators may not all need to become data scientists, but they need to have a sort of AI literacy and an idea of the judgment. And using AI and leading a team which works closely with AI responsibility and can question its outputs and understand AI's limit. So AI cannot do the wonders. But that brings us to our third theme, which is governance, ethics, and trust. So I wanted to ask a question to Carlos. Let me start with you on this one.
Mhm.
How should evaluation standards, competencies, and institutional framework evolve to support responsible AI use cases? So what's your view personally on that?
Yes, no, thank you, Anup. And please, you should see now, please, you can upload the slide. No, it's a very good question, and actually just follows nicely from the last comment from Aiko. So what is actually AI doing and influencing how is AI actually influencing our profession, no? So as we have been discussing, in this session, AI is indeed rapidly reshaping how we plan, conduct, and communicate evaluations, but at the same time, introduce real risks to credibility, independence, and trust. So the question is not really whether we use AI, it's rather how evaluation standards, competencies, and frameworks must evolve, to ensure that AI really strengthens rather than undermines, our profession. So where we stand today, we are not really starting from scratch, So we already have many guidance, and I think Alexander also shared some guidance produced by the CIR, I think are on the chat. As well as we in the UN evaluation group, we have already developed some principles that are actually a very strong ethical foundation for the use of AI. The importance of transparency and accountability, the importance of inclusivity, data protection and privacy, and the importance of validity and reliability, which is also something that was touched upon at the beginning. At this stage, I think several organizations, including ours, FAO, already provide some corporate guidance that emphasize the importance of quality assurance, disclosure, and ethical integrity. And in practice, several of our evaluations, including one that I recently led with my colleague Chutsi and my colleague Renate on FAO support to small-scale producers, are already applying many of these principles. And these, for example, include using AI for coding, for synthesis and analysis, or strictly also as an analytical aid under human oversight without replacing evaluative judgment. So the foundation already exists for using AI, but they are still largely principles. They are not yet fully operationalized. So what needs to evolve? In my view, well, first of all, we need standards. Right? So we need to evolve from having principles to having operational requirements. So this means already implementing some good practices like human in the loop validation, having replicable workflows and structured prompts, and having explicit ethical safeguards in our work. This, however, should not be optional. This should become standard requirements for our evaluations, which I think is where we are most of us lacking. In practical terms, this standard should require that we document the use of AI so that we and others can trace the information between real data and the evidence that we use. And we also have to have clear limits on what we delegate in terms of evaluative judgment. So I think I heard some colleagues, and this is an issue that some people actually do delegate. They don't have this human verification all the time. And this is something that we should not just be trusting that people will do it. So we need to set up mechanisms to ensure that this verification is actually done. The second area that needs to evolve is the competencies, right? So as we were discussing earlier, we need to be mindful that so far most of us have been doing experimentation, but that doesn't mean that we have to move into being more literate when it comes to AI. It doesn't mean that every evaluator has to be a data scientist, as we were just discussing, but it means that evaluators must understand what AI can do and cannot do, how it can interpret. We need to be able to interpret critically the outputs that AI provides. And also, we need to be able to identify risks such as bias or loss of context that sometimes happens in the results of AI. And this is something that, as I was saying earlier, to me is also very, very much linked to our ability to communicate our use of AI, right? And at least in FAO, I see we're really improving our efficiency using AI in document review, coding, and synthesis. But these efficiency gains will only really materialize when we combine both, the AI data literacy and our evaluation expertise. So what we want eventually is not to have just evaluators don't know, but I think the keyword will be AI-ready evaluators. And finally, the institutional frameworks that need to change. So as we heard, I mean, we have been all trying, for a few years, some more than others, piloting, So, but we need to have clear governance structure as well. So our internal institutional frameworks need to catch up with the potential of AI. And many of our offices are still in this piloting phase. So in the short term, we need to have some governance frameworks that are aligned with the UN principles, very transparent quality assurance protocols for AI-assisted work. And we also need to ensure that we have secure environments for data processing, because after all, we are managing data. In our case, in FAO, we have already moved into that direction, but still, it's a case-by-case basis, and this needs to become systematic, not just ad hoc. And in conclusion, this evolution is not really about just replacing existing frameworks, but making them AI-ready and operational. So the standards must move from principles to enforceable practice. The competencies must evolve towards AI literacy with critical judgment, and institutional frameworks must ensure governance and accountability. And this gap between principles and practice needs to be closed, so that we can actually do more systematic operationalization of the use of AI. Finally, this will mean that AI will not replace evaluators, but it will free us to do what matters most, interpretation, engagement, and contextual judgment. And this will lead us to be able to do more work, these augmented evaluators, right, as Eiko said. So thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Very, very comprehensive. You talked about the evaluation standards, institutional frameworks, which are really, really important, especially when the cost of the AI is really changing. Or like recently, there's a news that now instead of having this yearly subscription, the companies would charge you per token. So also it's something that we need to put in. I mean, to the estimate the cost, we need to also put that in the framework somewhere. I want to turn back to you, Alessandra. In your view, what governance arrangement are you proving most important to ensure that AI strengthens instead of weakens the credibility and the trustworthiness of the evaluation?
Thanks. So I think the starting point is that AI and evaluation must be governed as an ethical and methodological issue, and not just as a technical innovation issue. So AI can help agencies work faster and at scale, especially in humanitarian contexts, such as where we operate, where there's a constant pressure to do less, more with less. And I'd anchor this in kind of the broader UN framework of the 2022 UN principles, which gave us the system-wide baseline, and then the UNEG principles that make it more concrete for evaluation around transparency, accountability, fairness and inclusivity, data protection, privacy, validity and reliability, and human rights-based AI implementation. And again, in these previous sections, these elements have been pulled forward by my esteemed colleagues in terms of how they're approaching all of this. So AI should support evidence work, and not create new opacity or weakened accountability. In practice, credibility of AI use and evaluation depends on a few core arrangements. So clear approval processes, clear institutional accountability, documentation of methods and training data, human validation of output, and the ability to audit or explain how AI supported findings were produced. Some of the things that have already been raised. And of course, the difficulty is how, and I think that some very good practices have been mentioned before in the previous section. AI can support synthesis, but it really, and this has been coming up over and over again with everyone, it cannot replace evaluative judgment, context interpretation, or ethical reasoning. At WFP, one of the ways that we operationalize AI in evaluations is through our guidance on AI and ethical use. And so, and I want to preface this by saying that we hire external firms to do independent evaluations. So AI requires prior approval of AI use in evaluations, disclosure of intended use in inception reports, disclaimers were relevant, and human verification before AI-supported analysis informs findings, conclusions, or recommendations. And all of that underscores that evaluation-specific governance must include methodological safeguards, as has been raised. And I think governance in evaluations has to go beyond compliance to include methodological rigor. And I think that Stephen has brought this point out very, very well about not treating it as an output, that not taking what AI generates. So AI generated output should be met with the same standards of rigor, triangulation, and quality assurance that we would expect of any other kind of evidence. I want to also just sort of pivot for a second here around AI and evidence use, which is the area that I work in, and the tool that we developed, and how we've approached this at WFP. So again, as I mentioned, we had been developing this for the last 3 years, and it was developed in an AI sandbox, which has been a vital resource for WFP, as it has enabled the organization as a whole to assess the feasibility, effectiveness, and potential impact of new AI products before scaling them up, which highlights that agencies can combine these innovative spaces with governance, risk management, and stage experimentation before scaling up. Evidence Lab for us has shown a value in reducing duplication and speeding up tailored evidence synthesis, but it's also illustrated some of the governance matters, because the real value comes when we have human expertise remaining firmly in charge of interpretation and use. And so I think that, again, what we're doing as AI evolves, we're going to be evolving with it, and we're going to need to continue to evolve our governance arrangements and our guidances to meet this, because it's not going to go away. But I think that it's one of those things that we need to continue to not be complacent in how we're approaching the way that we're building these tools in our evaluation practices. And I'll go ahead and stop there.
Thank you, Alexandra. You talked about rightly so, about the governance structure, the validation protocols, and how you're using the disclosure and audit trails, which is really helpful because, if we want to make sure that AI is being used responsibly, we need to use these kind of guardrails. That brings to me, I wanted to understand from the FAO's perspective, as well as from the GCF's perspective, what governance challenge you like as an institution, what concerns you most when it comes to AI adaptation? This is for FAO and the GCF, so ICO and Zengui, if you could answer.
Should I go ahead?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So, Anup, thank you so much. So the challenge is, I think it comes down to 3 things. Number 1 is about the data privacy. Number 2, it's about, I think already Alexandra and Carlos touched upon, this is about the accountability and the transparency. So let me quickly touch upon the data privacy, because we feed a lot of data materials into, different AI. We use institutional, GPT, I think it was 4.0. So it's only for the organization. But if we are using that, outsourcing, potentially not having that data privacy issues, I think it creates potential risk of leakage. And, so this is just one thing that we really need to always keep in mind. And we are really careful. So that's one challenge. And in terms of the accountability, I think it's already Alessandra and Carlos touched very, very nicely. But this ultimately, it's, evaluator's job. Evaluation is, right? So it's really there and that, we need to make sure that evaluators are taking that responsibility, accountability of the findings and recommendations we conclude with. I think that's fundamentally it, because we start delegating too much and even the decision making goes to the AI, then we lose that accountability, right? So I think I really agree with, both of you, Alexandra and Carlos, about that. And then lastly, it's about transparency. And I think both of you also touched about, paper trails, and important to make sure that, every, prompt is clearly recorded and retrievable. And this really goes down to, about being honest about AI use. This is not, myself as an evaluator who did it, but we used AI as an assistant. And I think this fundamental, it's another, being really ethical evaluator, right? Being transparent and clear about where we, put in the demarcation, and we are clear about that. So I think that's my contribution. Thank you. I pretty much agree with most of contribution, Alessandra and Carlos. Thank you. Over.
Thank you. Zikri, do you want to offer some reflections from FL on this?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Anup. And yeah, I definitely agree with Echo on all the 3 points. So additionally, I see what from the FAO perspective is how to harmonize standards and practice. Because now AI is so accessible and also very powerful. So of course, naturally, many people want to apply it to many stages in evaluation and to take care of many knowledge tasks and as intelligence resources. So I think it's very important to define the boundary, like when you can use and how you can use. Because some evaluation tasks, some evaluation decisions, you need to leave it to the evaluators. Yeah, some you can leave it to AI, like the repetitive ones, the ones you need to automate, the data with large scale, such the tasks. So I think this is a big issue I see that is emerging. And another is about transparency. So here I would refer to the open science framework. So open science is a movement that is started from the research community. So I can quote one core principle of theirs, that is as open as possible and as close as necessary. So I think we can still do more on transparency and the traceability, not just internally, but also externally. And this will also help us help each other to improve on the practice and also on the standards. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Zenki. You mentioned very nicely that AI should be a support tool, not really evaluative tool. This theme brings me back to the central issue. AI can support evaluation, but trust depends on the system around it. For example, like what are the standards, like ecosystems, right? Like the safeguards, disclosure, accountability, and human judgment. I want to bring in here Fabrizio. Fabrizio, we have discussed here practice and methodology, skills and team composition, but also the governance, ethics, and trust. Looking ahead 5 years, what should evaluation offices prioritize to ensure AI sort of brings the value, not really undermines the credibility of independent evaluation?
Thank you so much, Anu, for invitation, and good afternoon or good time zone to everyone. For those who are not familiar with my face, I'm Fabrizio Felloni, I'm Deputy Director of Independent Evaluation Office of EGEF, which is Global Environment Facility. And let me say that the past year and a half, which I spent in this office, have been really reaching in terms of work on artificial intelligence. We are blessed because our office was one of the early adopters of artificial intelligence. In fact, the 2 colleagues that spoke before, Anupam and Tanisha, are from our office. And Anupam, in fact, was the one who pioneered use of AI starting about 10 years ago. And both of them were born as data scientists. We have two full data scientists in our office. Not many offices have this privilege, so it's a very interesting observatory for this. Let me start. I will answer your question, but I will also start with some thoughts on the title of this webinar. In fact, it's good that I speak last because this way I don't give a spoiler message. So first of all, doing more with less. I would put a big question mark there. I'm not sure that's really the case. It's a bit ambiguous, first of all. It's ambiguous at the level of individual evaluation. Think about this. Yes, in fact, you have a computational capacity, which was unmatched before, so you can do an analysis on data that you couldn't do before. But that also means that, in a way, the expectation on your evaluation go up. So at the level of individual evaluation, yes, certain type of analysis may be done quicker, but then the expectation of what your evaluation should look at increase. So you will have to answer more questions and not less questions. Number one, at the level of the work that your office is it going to reduce really the need for resources? Again, not very clear, because then if you have more computational capacity and more analytical capacity, your board or the other entity which supervises you will ask you more and more. So let's be careful before we say this. So question mark about doing more with less. It's not obvious. Now, let me say a little bit what looking 5 years from now, what we have to be prepared for. I think we have to be prepared for opportunities, and we have to be prepared for risk and big troubles. Opportunities and big risk and troubles. So let's look a little bit at opportunities and then risk and troubles. So opportunities. We think artificial intelligence is giving us an opportunity to look at more data and new sources. That's true, but also sometimes it can help us look at old sources which you never use. I'll give you an example. I'm sure if you work in evaluation office or wherever you do evaluation, you work in an organization where there's a lot of documentation that nobody looks at. It's buried in electronic archives or maybe even physical archives. So think about many implementation reports that you have or supervision reports. Who is reading them? Maybe the person who has written them. Are we using them? Well, we can with artificial intelligence. Last year, we did a proof of concept, and Tanisha was helpful in that. And we said, what do these hundreds of reports which nobody is reading tell us about the problem that happened at the implementation? And how do they help us categorize the type of problem that happened in implementation? So that was an example that we could do because of these analytical tools we couldn't do before. Another example of analysis that may become standard. Another opportunity, of course, is, for example, matching text analytics and looking a bit from our perspective and geospatial. So that allows you to know more, for example, have an assessment of hotspots of biodiversity. That's one of the typical areas of work of Jeff, and seeing whether project intervention are matched with where biodiversity is or biodiversity problems or land degradation is. So that you can do it by using artificial intelligence. Another area could be synthesis. So we have opportunities to extract lessons and learn from our own evaluation or learn from other study that exists, which means in the future, those who design project have less and less or fewer excuses to say, oh, I don't know anything about this new this approach. Well, there's a lot of literature. Why didn't you go and use artificial intelligence to learn from the literature? So, of course, that will not solve the problems because we'll always have to adapt approaches to local situations, and some things are not standardizable. So see some examples of using new data, using old data that nobody thinks of, and also matching sometimes different type of methodology via artificial intelligence. That's a good opportunities, but we also have troubles, and here we come. Think of this, the capacity to fabricate fake data and deepfake data information will perhaps match and surpass our capacity to do analysis. So that big issue. So we do more and more analysis, and someone will be more and more able to fabricate fake data and fabricate so well that it looks good, even to an evaluator. So again, this means in the future, and some of you have captured very well, that's not a panacea. We will need to have traditional methods to validate evidence. And traditional methods would be interviews, would be going to the field for those interventions that are field-based, talking to people and reach those that are not reached by artificial intelligence. So, and that also leads to another question: what should my children learn if they want to become evaluators? I'm not sure my children will want to become evaluators, but for the sake of the argument, what should they learn? I think they certainly should learn about artificial intelligence. I think they should continue learning what we have learned as traditional training. They should certainly learn about statistics. They should learn about qualitative methods. They should learn how to do a good sample, either a quantitative sample or a qualitative sample. Because we don't want the same mistakes that have been happened before with other technology to be repeated with the new technology. Sorry if I digress a little bit. 90 years ago, in 2026, 90 years ago, there was a poll to find who would be the new president of the United States. And everybody thought, and the polls, the most accredited poll, what did they do? They look at the recent technology, which was telephones and cars. So the register of those who own a car and the register of those who own a phone. And they predicted that Mr. Landon would win the election. In fact, it was Franklin Roosevelt who won it because the sample was biased. They look at those who, of course, if you're in a register of a phone in the 1930s, or if you're on a car, you are certainly much better off. So the survey was completely flawed. So we don't want the same to happen with the new methodologies, and we don't want to make the same mistake. So learning the principles, knowing how to formulate evaluation question stays current and fundamental as it has always been and it should be. And in terms of learning, we don't all need to be data scientists. It's a luxury if we have one in one office. If you can get one, take a data scientist. But we will need also different skills at different levels. Managers will need certain type of skills, and other evaluators need different skills. But of course, we will all need different level of literacy. And perhaps we can also work on that in our office, thinking what are the level and what do we cater for. And finally, of course, I do want to be already quite long, so I'll stop here by saying, of course, ethics is fundamental. The first fundamental question would be, who has produced this evaluation? Is it a human or is it a cyber entity that has produced this? So and also the issues that we talked before, biases, non-inclusion remain fundamental with or without artificial intelligence. So I'll stop here. I hope I'm not inundated you with too much elements, but certainly it's a fascinating conversation. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Fabrizio. This gives us a useful strategic bridge into the audience discussion. Following up on what you said, Fabrizio, I mean, the AI gives us sort of like three opportunities. One is efficiency, of course. Another one is wider scope. Now we can process more larger documents and number of documents, but also the modality. So basically, we could now integrate the different kind of data, and we can ask different kind of data system to talk to each other because of the artificial intelligence, which was not possible maybe 2 decades before. But we have now some time for questions from the audiences. I have some questions in the chat, but if you would like, please raise your hand, and I would ask you to introduce you to the panelist and direct the question to the specifically to the panelist. Do we have someone? Please raise your hands in the chat if you have any question to any panelist. We have some in the chat. Okay. We have Adamu. May I ask you to introduce yourself and then ask your question, and also mention who are you asking that question to?
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, yeah. So my name is Haruna Adamu, and I am actually speaking from Nigeria. Cannot be specific. Yeah, so I have actually joined the section. I think I've been missing a lot of the sessions, but I think today I was able to join the session. It was so insightful. So my question, I don't know, maybe it's directed to any one of the speakers or all the speakers. But I will just need maybe answers from anyone. So I think it's a general question, actually. I even posted it in the chat. So like we who are young evaluators, let me say upcoming evaluators, and we're working at a small organization, let me say indigenous local organizations in Nigeria, for example. So like myself, I actually use AI a lot. Yeah, I've been trying to use AI, do some online training just to see how to prompt AI prompt engineering and others. So how do we get more equipped with these trends, with these emerging trends? Like, because there are a lot of emerging trends now, and probably we might be doing something wrong, which we might not know that, okay, AI is either helping or actually destroying whatever we're doing. Because we started with the traditional method of evaluation, collect data from the field, do the analysis using either Excel or any other tool available, like the Power BI and others. But now, with this, yeah, sometimes I find out that, okay, the work is faster. The way you used to spend like 2 days working on evaluating, but now with the AI now, you have all your data. Yeah, you collected the real data from the field and you do some little analysis, use your Excel to do so, to bring out some of your indicators you want to actually analyze. But when you now apply AI, you find that it's faster. But the only thing we do actually at our own level, we make sure that whatever result we get from the AI, the insight we get from the AI, we try to correlate to the context of whatever we're doing. Does it really actually speak to the context of what we are working on, or it is like vague, something like the mind cannot even take? Because when you see a result from somewhere, you know that, yeah, this is not actually a result, but actually something which is formulated out of, let me say, which is anywhere. So I'm just trying to ask, okay, we are the young evaluators, so how do we get equipped very well? How do eval come into equip us more on how to use this structurally, or how to use it in such a way that at least we have good record or good result or good report produced for our funders and donors. Thank you very much.
Adam. We got your question. So how young evaluators equip themselves for the new emerging technologies? I was wondering who would like to take this question.
I can take that.
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Alessandra, you want to go ahead?
You start and then I'll add in.
Sure. So this is go back to my point earlier about the growth mindset. I think all of us, whether it's young or mature evaluator, I think that growth mindset, because AI is changing every day, literally every day. And then the last year, the things we couldn't do, now, we could do. So I think it's really stay up to date with present capability of AI. And 2 years ago, now we talk about RAG. RAG is basically creating the library of evidence, trustful, reliable data source. And based on that library, we ask AI to perform specific task. 2 years ago, we couldn't do that at all. And we were just randomly shooting the prompts to, OpenAI. And now we can create specific library that's specifically related to particular evaluation topic you are interested in. For our evaluation, I was, privileged to lead climate information and early warning system evaluation. And we put together all relevant resources into one library, and then we were able to retrieve, right? So that kind of technology is now available, right? And so I think really keep all of us, open and updated. I think that mentality is most important for me. Yeah, hope that helps. Over.
Thank you, Alexa.
Sorry, I'm just going to jump in, and then I see that Anupam has his hand. So I think a couple things, and one is that again, we have to remember, especially when we're collecting primary data and we're using AI, that we always look at data protection by design and by default. So first and foremost, it's really having a very sound grounding in the ethics of using AI for analysis and making sure that whatever tools we're using, that we are not putting people's personal data out there into the universe that we cannot get back. I think in addition to that, and speaking to Taiko's comment about, the growth mindset. I mean, when I started this work, again, and my background is as a qualitative researcher, we would, Xerox, type up the transcript, Xerox the transcript, CAD code, cut them up and make piles. Then we evolved to, using things like in vivo, and now we're looking at AI for doing auto tagging and so on. And I think that this is an incredibly fascinating and disruptive innovation, right, into this field that we're just now in some ways starting to see the possibilities of. And some of us are further along than others. I think that, you're going to, I don't really know with young evaluators, because again, we all kind of learned the hard way. And this is now speeding up, but you're going to learn the hard way with using this tool. And I'm not sure that I'm necessarily in a position to tell you what tools you need, but I think that in some ways, young evaluators will help in some ways keep us remembering this idea of inclusion and making sure that we bring you along so that we're not all aging out and you're coming without the skills that you need. And so to me, I think your question is more of a call to us to make sure that you have what you need. And I don't really have the answer to it, but it's something that I think about regularly as I see young and emerging evaluators come up. And I'll stop there. Over to you.
Thank you. Anupam, if you could be very quick. Thanks.
Yeah, I think what as a young evaluator I would seek at this point in time is how do we do that? There are a lot of resources I can point out. I think Stephen also mentioned AI literacy. So starting with a lot of these guidance that are available, some of them have been shared. So that will help you understand what AI can do and what it cannot. But to enable you to do hands-on, I hands-on use of AI, I would recommend there are many free courses and mocks available, starting with the Google AI Essential. They have chapter on prompt engineering. So that would be that will enable you to actually get your hands dirty and to be able to amplify and use AI as a force multiplier, because we can talk about AI and what it can do, but unless we are able to actually use it in our work, all that talk is just a talk. So I think, as Alexandra and Ike also mentioned, that it's a hard way, but it's not difficult. The moment you start seeing the benefits, when you start seeing the results at scale, you'll be more excited and more immersed in using it, and within no time I can assure you, and based on my own experience, you will catch up with a lot of advancement and advanced use of AI, and it's only getting better and easier for non-technical, non-programmers to use AI. So I'll just stop here, but I'm not endorsing Google. There are other mocks also, but I think Google AI Essential, I have used it long back, could be a good start.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Stephen, if you can be very quick, and then we take questions
Yes.
from Valentine.
Sure. Very quickly, just on the second part of Haruna's question on how can Eval for Earth support them in this, is just like also through platforms like this, like sharing experiences of different organizations. So just joining a lot of the events that are organized, like and also sharing, because we're also sharing things that worked, things that didn't work, etc. So I would encourage you to also follow Eval for Earth and the different trainings and sharing sessions that they offer.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I mean, absolutely, sharing is one of the most efficient way of learning. I want to bring in here Valentine. Valentine has a question. Please, Valentine, if you could ask your question and direct it to someone. If not, I would help you directing it to the panelists.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your very insightful conversation and advice. Thank you so much. my question is about the digital fracture. Like, don't you think that AI will widen the gap between developed states and the global south? Since almost all the data available from which AI is driving its information to support us is from the north. I believe basically my question is about the risk of higher exclusion due to digital fracture between countries, and how, or maybe what can we do to minimize this risk in our work and produce more inclusive work, I guess. Thank you. I don't know who can answer it. I'm happy to hear from anyone who can provide some guidelines.
Yes, Renkwi, and then Anupam.
I can also say a couple of words on that, Rick, Anup, later.
Thanks. But all three of you, if you could be super quick because we are running out of time, and I want to take one more question. Thank you. Very quick, Zenkwi, and then Anupam, and then Carlos. Thanks. Zenkwi, do you have
Oh, yes. Zhiqi. So thank you for the question. I think this I really resonate with this phenomenon, and it will definitely increase the gap between the developed and the developing countries. So I want to refer to the open science movement. So there's one principle that is inclusivity, alongside transparency, sharing, and also fair principles. So I think it's really important to think about it. And we cannot close the gap immediately with some strategies or with some ideas. But I think to be mindful of the principle, inclusivity is really important. And also like to be mindful of the gap that's left by this data gap, that most data is in the hand of the developed, and most technique is in the hand of developed. So actually, like during the open science movement, there is a reflection that open science movement, it was aim to benefit everyone, to make the research more credible by opening softwares, by opening data, but also it became the burden for the global south. And I can see the similar situation mirroring here, is that it is enhancing many sections, many units, but also it gives burden to people who cannot keep up, to people who cannot catch up. So I think this is a very good question that leaves with us to think about it. To see how we can be more inclusive. Also, this connects to the first question, is to how to cultivate and grow the young evaluators, the ones that is under-resourced. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anupam, please.
Yeah, if I may just add, so equity is a big issue with AI, not just global south and north. Look at where the models are coming from and what kind of data they are trained on, and what kind of languages they are trained on. But also look at the cost of subscribing to some of these AI and the skill needed, and the resources needed to build those skills. So this is a real concern that we need to address. There are ways to address it. There are some open weight models, because most of the models are even a black box, so we don't even know how they are being used or weighed to drive business interest. I mean, these are real issues. For us, it's a huge concern. So for evaluators, we have to see where the evidence is coming from, and also we have to see whether we are empowering the evaluators in global south and not promoting colonialism in our evaluation work. So definitely a serious concern, and we have to think about how do we address. We already know where are the tension points, and we have to be cognizant of these while building our evaluation systems. So I'll just stop here.
Thank you. Carlos, very quick reflection. We are running out of time.
Yes, and actually, this is one of the risks, I think, Fabrizio, among the list you have, that we could have maybe say a few more things, no, indeed, about equity. But to me, all this hype, has make us somehow blind to the fact that the data is what it is, AI is not going to change, underlying problems. At worst, it's going to magnify them. And this is one of the issues about the equity. To me, the main issue I see is the quality. So sometimes we embark in doing analysis because with AI it's easier, it's faster, but we forget that the data is what it is. So sometimes the question we're trying to answer cannot be answered even with AI. So we have to be careful. Data quality is still a main issue. So AI is not going to solve it. And among that is the coverage of the data. That in fact, as the colleague, the person that raised the point, make it very clear, sometimes doesn't represent, the world as we actually try to see it, in our evaluations. So let's be mindful on that and make appropriate use of AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. I would have loved to take more questions, but I fear that we don't have time and we are running already out of time. Just to conclude on that, also the AI summits that I've been to, in a couple of them, the the AI sovereignty came again and again. Partly because there are few countries which are dominating in the whole AI world, and they're making us dependent. So tomorrow I don't know, we started writing report just only with the AI. What if like ChatGPT stops or any other model stop, and they ask us to pay more, or they say no, we're gonna give your data to someone. So like we are creating kind of dependability. It's also something that we have to think about going forward. But thank you. Let me briefly summarize the three key messages that I heard from the discussions. First, the AI can help evaluation offices to do work very efficiently, especially when they are dealing with large volume of documents, evidence, data. But efficiency gains are only meaningful if they are accompanied by the quality assurance and methodological rigor. And the second one is the human judgment remains central. The AI can support classification, synthesis, retrieval, analysis that my co-panelists said, but it cannot be. But the judgment cannot be outsourced to the tool. The human has to be the driver. It cannot be the evaluator. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that evaluation standards, institutional frameworks need to evolve, as Alexandra and Carlos said. Responsible AI use requires transparency, validation, disclosure, appropriateness, and the governance safeguard. So without that, I don't think, there's a use of efficient AI, because then we will fall into the pits. So perhaps the key message is this: challenge is not simply to use AI more. The challenge is to use AI in a way that it brings the positive value to evaluation practices without weakening the trust and losing the rigor of the evaluation practices. With that, I hand back to Innocent for his closing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Arnob, for guiding us through today's discussion. I would also like to thank our panelists for their contributions and reflections, and to thank you, all participants, for joining us from different regions and for your engagement throughout the session. For me, perhaps one important message emerging from today is that the future of evaluation will not be determined by technology alone, but by the choices institutions, evaluators, and societies make regarding how these technologies are used, governed, and integrated responsibly into practice. For Eval for Earth, these discussions are particularly important given the growing relevance of AI, innovation, and evidence use within the global development and evaluation practice. We therefore hope that today's discussion will not end here, but instead contribute to continued dialogue, collaboration, experimentation, and shared learning across the wider evaluation community. Lastly, I kindly invite you to complete the short feedback survey shared in the chats. We'll greatly appreciate your feedback so that at least we can maybe know what you want for our future sessions. Again, as a kind reminder, the recording of today's session together with the materials or reference materials shared will be made available through the F4F website and all digital platforms. If you are not yet a member of F4F community of practice, we encourage you to join and continue engaging through our webinars, online discussions, and all future events. The F4F remains a community driven by collaboration and shared learning. With that, I would like to once again thank you all, speakers, partners, colleagues, and participants for joining us today. We look forward to continuing this discussion throughout the remainder of Global Evaluation Week. We have 2 more sessions, one tomorrow and then the last one on Friday. All the links are available across all our digital platforms and also on our website. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very good day or evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Thank you, and bye-bye for now.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.